Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to officially welcome you to the 41st Annual CSUN Assistive Technology Conference. Yay. My name is Julia Santiago, and I'm the Managing Director for the CSUN Center on Disabilities, and your proud host of the CSUN Conference. Each year, as we prepare for this week, I feel a growing sense of excitement as the week approaches, and this year is no exception. After celebrating 40 remarkable years last year, we now begin a new chapter. For more than 4 decades, the CSUN Conference has been an inclusive setting that brings together researchers, practitioners, developers, educators, advocates, policy leaders, and people with disabilities from around the world. Together, we share knowledge, explore innovation, challenge assumptions, and advance accessibility and inclusion in meaningful ways. This week is filled with many opportunities. We have hundreds of educational sessions led by experts and thought leaders across the field, from emerging technologies and AI-driven accessibility solutions to inclusive design, digital accessibility, policy, higher education access, employment, and community living. We have content for everyone. We have our exhibit hall featuring cutting-edge products and services, giving you hands-on opportunities to explore the latest innovations shaping the future. We have several networking opportunities that provide space for meaningful dialogue and collaboration. In addition to these events, the conversations in hallways, the connections over coffee are often where the most impactful work begins. If you haven't already, be sure to access the Attendee Hub, whether it be through the web platform or the app. It's your go-to resource for the session schedule, updates, exhibitors, and networking. So make sure that you have this tool because it will help you navigate this week much, much easier. As we move forward into this 41st year, I'm reminded of what makes this conference so special. It's not just the sessions and the events, it's the people. It's the shared commitment to equity. It's the belief that access is a fundamental right. It's the understanding that innovation must include everyone. The work happening in this community ensures that accessibility is not an afterthought, but a foundational principle. Whether this is your first CSUN conference or your 41st, you are a part of a community that continues to lead, innovate, and advocate. This week, I encourage you to attend a session outside your usual focus area, introduce yourself to someone new, engage in conversations that challenge and inspire you. What happens here doesn't stay here. It travels outward into classrooms, corporations, government agencies, and communities around the globe. I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, exhibitors, and presenters, and most importantly, the incredible team at the Center on Disabilities. We are a team of 5 strong staff members, and this conference is a result of over a year of planning and dedication. And of course, I want to thank each of you for being here, for investing your time, your expertise, and your passion. Now it's my pleasure to turn this program over to Dr. William Watkins, Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students at California State University in Northridge. Under his leadership, the CSUN Center on Disabilities thrives on the CSUN campus. It is not without his support and commitment to this conference community that makes all of this possible. It is my honor to welcome Dr. Watkins to the stage.
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, come on, let's wake up. Let's give a big cheer for being here together at this conference. In some ways, I look upon you as those who have been committed during the last 12 months since we were together, and of course, leading up to that time. And last year, we were talking about the need to have resilience and commitment and a willingness and a drive to find our way through challenging times, times during which we find ourselves refamiliarizing individuals with what it means to make sure that everyone is able to achieve their own potential in a world that seems to have some conflict about that. But there is no conflict in our presence here today. I am, as Julie said, the Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students at CSUN, and so delighted to be able to extend this welcome to you. I welcome you to the conference on behalf of our president, Dr. Erica Beck, and all of the faculty, staff, and students at California State University Northridge, and I'll even say on behalf of the California State University system, because we all believe in what we are about here. This is the 41st annual conference, and we want there to be at least 41 more. For more than 4 decades, this conference has stood as a global gathering place for innovation, collaboration, and progress in assistive technology. It is a space where research meets lived experiences, where practitioners meet innovators, and where ideas become tools that change lives. We gather this year in a moment of a significant national conversation and change. At the federal level, we are experiencing shifts that affect visibility, funding priorities, and policy engagement, including reduced presence, unfortunately, of longstanding partners such as the U.S. Department of Education. And to all of our colleagues from that space who are not able to be here, we are with you. And yet, even in times of transition, our commitment does not waver. The work must continue. It continues because individuals with disabilities depend on us, depend on you, not only for services and support, but for your leadership, innovation, and advocacy. It continues because access is not optional, equity is not seasonal, inclusion is not contingent upon political climate. Inclusion is not dependent upon political Inclusion is not dependent upon political climate. At CSUN, we believe that equity is not peripheral, it is central to who we are. We are proud to serve as a minority-serving institution, a Hispanic-serving institution, an institution that's received the Seal of Excellencia, and recently designated as a California Black Serving Institution. These distinctions are not symbolic. They reflect our deep responsibility to serve students whose talents, identities, and contributions strengthen our university and our society. Many of our students navigate diversity alongside race, ethnicity, language, and socioeconomic realities. Our commitment to access must therefore be intersectional, responsive, and unwavering. At this conference, it is an extension of the commitment I just indicated. To our international partners and our colleagues joining us from across the nation, we welcome you. Your presence reminds us that access and innovation transcends borders. The technologies, research, and practices shared here expand outward to communities around the world. Over the next several days, I encourage you to immerse yourself fully. Attend sessions that challenge your thinking, connect with colleagues who inspire new ideas, spend time in the exhibit hall engaging with vendors whose innovations are shaping the future of access. Ask questions, share insights, and build relationships. In fact, why don't you turn to someone on either side of you and just greet them in however you might be accustomed to greeting. A hunch, a nudge, a hello, a high five, a shake hand or something. Say hello to somebody this morning. So I just introduced the high point of the morning here. Thank you for taking that opportunity. You know, it's amazing to me. It's amazing to me when we do new student orientation, when I welcome students to our university who are meeting each other for the first time, I take that same moment to encourage them to say hello to someone. We hope that you will stay in that spirit of connection during the time that you are here. We must support and fortify each other, so let that same spirit continue with you. The CSUN Assistive Technology Conference has always been about community, and community grounded in expertise, lived experiences, and shared belief that technology can and must expand opportunity. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you do every day in service to individuals with disabilities. And thank you for helping us to build a more inclusive society for all. Welcome to the 41st Annual CSUN Assistive Technology Conference. We're so glad that you are here. At this time, I'd like to welcome Dr. Harry Murphy here, the founder of the CSUN Conference and the Center on Disabilities. Harry is a visionary leader and pioneer in the field of assistive technology. He's taught me everything I know. As a founding force behind the CSUN Center on Disabilities and the Assistive Technology Conference, he helped create one of the most influential global gatherings, this one, dedicated to advancing access and innovation for individuals with disabilities. His leadership was grounded in the belief that technology can and should expand opportunity, independence, and inclusion. The continued growth and international impact of this conference stands as a testament to his enduring legacy and commitment to equity through access. He served as a student affairs administrator at Cal State University Northridge, where we had a wonderful opportunity to serve together. Join me in welcoming my friend, Dr. Harry Murphy, to present the 2026 Strache Award.
Okay, here are 3 of the 4 directors of the CSUN Conference over the past 41 years. Good morning and thank you for coming. This is my pleasure to introduce the Strache National Leadership Award for 2026. Think for a moment about leaders that you have known. Why do you admire them, respect them, love them? Think about how they influenced you and the impact, the lasting impact that they have made. We think about Fred Strache. Dr. Fred Strache believed leadership was not about authority, but about the responsibility to develop others. Through counsel, example, patience, and trust, he multiplied himself in the people around him. Fred was a leader who created other leaders. This may be the most enduring form of leadership there is. We honor Fred because it was his action that created this conference. Though I am credited as the founder of the CSUN Conference, let's call Fred the father of the CSUN Conference. When I took the idea of this conference to Fred, my boss, in 1984, I needed his sign-off and blessing. This was because the planning and execution required an investment of time, mostly mine, personnel, mostly me, and travel funds for me to go around the country and sit in front of the very few people who were working in assistive technology at that time and trying to convince them they should come to California for an unproven conference. Not an easy sell, but Fred supported me. So he gave the green light, and the first conference was staged at the university in 1985. In 1988, we created the Fred Strache National Leadership Award. It's presented each year to someone who best exemplifies his values and example. The very first award in 1988, fittingly enough, went to Fred Strache. I am sorry that I am speaking about Fred in the past tense. He passed away at his home in Honolulu last year. Okay, where are they? Today we honor one of our own, a former managing director of the CSUN Conference, Sandy Plotin. Sandy managed this conference for 17 years, longer than any other director, including me. I managed it for 15 years. So Sandy came to us from USC, where she had responsibilities for conference coordination and housing. I asked her how she felt at her first CSUN conference, and I can relate to her answer. Terrified. Sandy quickly grasped the reins, and during her tenure, she grew the conference, improved the conference, and sustained its reputation as the premier conference in the AT field. She also guided the conference through the COVID years, taking it virtual in 2021 and then bringing it back to an in-person format in 2022. Today's managing director, whom you met a moment ago, Julia, served as Sandy's assistant from 2012 to 2022. I asked her to contribute her thoughts about Sandy's leadership, and I was going to read her thoughts about Sandy. Why should I read her thoughts about Sandy?
I'm going to read my quote since it actually was not bad. Sandy has always shunned the spotlight. As conference planners, we are always behind the scenes, and I know that her being recognized in such a public way feels pretty uncomfortable for her. However, the CSUN conference owes her a debt of gratitude. As our leader for almost 20 years, she consistently challenged us, her team, to deliver the very best year over year. Her whole focus was driven by a deep commitment to the mission of the Center on Disabilities and to an inclusive society where all people have the opportunity to achieve their goals and experience success.
Okay, this is heavy. And now Sandy Plotin to accept the highest award of the Center on Disabilities, the Strache National Leadership Award.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you, Harry, for the nomination, and thanks, Center on Disabilities, for giving me the award. I tried to ignore Harry's warning that he was going to nominate me, but it got to Julia, and they talked me into it. You see, I didn't think I deserved it. I remember updating the list of recipients every year, and that had some real heavy hitters on it, including a few people here who had the award before me. But looking back over the 17 years, I thought, you know what, I do deserve it. Anyway, I'm proud of my time at the center and what I accomplished there, because I did meet the challenges and goals that were tied to the reasons my position was created in the first place, and that was to bring the conference back to its glory days. And I had a lot of help on the way. I had some terrific mentors, some of them right here in this room, including, the best one over here, my Irish rabbi, Harry Murphy, who held my hand at that first terrible conference. And I also had a lot of support over the years from a great team of members in the department, including some of them here, Julia, Andrew, and Angelica. And I also got to meet a lot of great colleagues in this room, some of them who I really look forward to seeing every year and working with, and some of them not. Anyway, so thank you again for this honor. I'm really grateful that I had the opportunity to hopefully do some good and maybe help make a difference with a lot of the people in this room at the conference. And all I want to say is I'm thankful that I got to do it at the best and most rewarding job I ever had. Thank you.
Sandy is no longer in the position and has retired from the university, but Sandy's still Sandy. We love you. Congratulations to you. Let's give her another cheer. And thank you again, Harry, for making the presentation. At this time, I would like to invite Klaus Miesenberger to the stage. Klaus is the CSUN Assistive Technology Conference Journal Program Chair and the scientific editor for the Journal on Technology and Persons with Disabilities, which the Center of Disabilities is publishing its 14th volume this year. Klaus will be presenting the 2026 Karshmer Award. Klaus, come forward.
What a view. You should try it yourself. Welcome, and thank you very much, CSUN family, having me. We are still here. Science and research is still here, and thanks to CSUN having a look at us, standing by us and giving us the place where we belong to, science and research, where we best can contribute to an inclusive and open society. This sounds obvious, but let me give you a short personal story. A few weeks ago, I got an invitation to give a keynote at a small conference on symbolic logic. As usual, you send a title there, you send an abstract there, and a few days later I get back an email that I have to change the title, that I have to change some words and concepts in what I plan to do. I'm shocked. I mean, I'm happy to discuss every scientific aspect, but I was shocked, and I declined to take part in the conference. Principis obsta, resist the beginnings. This is more than 2,000 years old, from Ovid, 2 after Christ. Never forget how much science and research, open and free research, contributed to the development and success of mankind, again and again and again. But I'm an optimist. I believe and I trust in the full value chain of assistive technology and accessibility for the quality of life for people with disabilities. CSUN is the place where all stakeholders in the value chain of inclusion meet and cooperate. People propose, science studies, technology, and also administration, business, and also politics have to confirm. Only in this way, ladies and gentlemen, we can guarantee progress in the dignity for all. This is the mission of the CSUN Journal on Technology and People with Disabilities. It calls for independent, only evidence-based and rigorous scientific method-based work, free to define and follow concepts, ideas, studies, and engineering presented to the CSUN family for discussion, critics, and uptake, reviewed and evaluated by at least 3 reviewers from all over the world, and in addition by the panel of chairs before getting accepted for the publication and presentation. No restriction, no pressure, no censorship, freedom of the word, freedom of science and research. With the Karshmer Award on Assistive Technology Research, named after the co-founder of the journal and a role model for open and free science and research, we acknowledge this difficult and sometimes frustrating work of scientists. By awarding the best contributions, we value and appreciate the dedicated work of many in our field. The scientific track accepts the best papers only. This award honors the best of the best. This year, the Arthur Karshmer Award for Assistive Technology Research goes to the paper, A Multimodal AI-Powered Travel Assistant GeoApp for Blind and Visually Handicapped Users. Let me call up Taylor Ortiz and congratulate him and his colleagues from the City College of New York. Congratulations.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Last year, I had the opportunity to be an attendee at my first CSUN conference. Seeing all the amazing work developers and researchers were doing to support people with disabilities was inspiring and made me eager to make my own contributions to the community. Since then, I have worked closely with the blind and low vision community, and I am grateful for that. As a student researcher from the City College of New York, I had the wonderful opportunity to meet with members of the community and listen to their needs and wants when it comes to assistive technology, and try my best to create an application directly catered to them. This wouldn't have been possible without the support from my great professors and mentors, Dr. Hao Tang from the Borough of Manhattan Community College, and Dr. Jigang Zhu from the City College of New York. I would like to thank CSUN for recognizing my team's hard work and presenting us this award. Angelica Robles here at CSUN for organizing this award. All co-authors that supported our research, Mamuna Chowdhury, Richard Perez, Jianing Qi, and William H. Seipel. Subrata Acharya at the National Science Foundation, the City University of New York and the City College of New York, the Zahn Innovation Center at the City College of New York, all the amazing blind and low vision volunteers at Visions in New York City, the Lighthouse Guild for providing guidance, and all my family and friends that have supported me throughout my research. Thank you again so much for this award.
All right, about another cheer for Tyler. How inspiring. He comes one year, first time at the conference, and next year he's getting an award. We like that. Again, congratulations to you. It's my great privilege now to introduce the 2026 CSUN Assistive Technology Conference keynote speaker, Haley Moss. Haley, yeah, how about a cheer already? Let's do that. I've got some prepared remarks here, but I've had a chance to chat with her, and she's a beautiful individual, and you have a chance to meet her just in a moment. Haley was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, and early in life was told she might not finish high school or earn a driver's license. Yet she has gone on to defy those expectations and become a nationally recognized lawyer, neurodiversity expert, educator, author, and keynote speaker. Haley is licensed to practice law in Florida and is celebrated as one of the first openly autistic attorneys in that state. Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. She's written multiple books that guide and support neurodivergent individuals through both personal and professional challenges, including how to navigate school, work, and self-advocacy. Her work extends beyond authorship. She consults with corporations and nonprofits to make workplaces and communities more inclusive, and she is a sought-after voice on disability rights and neurodiversity. Haley has also been recognized on lists such as Forbes 30 Under 30, I'm no longer under 30, 30 Under 30, and her writings have appeared in outlets such as The Washington Post, Teen Vogue, Fast Company, and the ABA Journal. Her lived experience, professional insight, and commitment to expanding access and inclusion make her perspective especially meaningful for our community and for this conference. Join me in welcoming a wonderful human being, Haley Moss. Come forward. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. You all sound so enthusiastic, and I love it. I hope that we take that energy not just today, but throughout this entire week that we have together. I do want to start off by thanking every single one of you, no matter where in the world you came from or where you're joining us from. You made a choice to be here. You could have been at your desk, you could have been at home, you could have been somewhere else, and you chose to connect, to stay curious, to advocate for yourself, to advocate for our communities. For that, I selfishly am very grateful, and each of you deserve the applause and the celebration for making that step. I do want to talk about stories. We tell a lot of stories when we are here, and we tell a lot of unique stories about disability. A lot of the time, when I am asked to stand up here and tell my story, I am asked to tell a very specific story. That story is often one that goes like this. When I was diagnosed with autism back in the 90s, we did not have the level of information, technology, and ideas that we have today. Quite frankly, there were a lot of unknowns, a lot of stereotypes, a lot of stigma. The story then goes of all the things that I will never do, a world of no's. Thankfully, there were people in my life who said yes when the rest of the world said no. No matter how loud that yes may be, whether it is a quiet whisper within you or it is in a room full of here, those yeses go a long way. And the story that is often told of me is about those yeses, which is very important. But the story that gets told is once I was not speaking, and then, fast forward, I'm an attorney. I don't like this story very much. I don't like this story very much because it glosses over real challenges, real barriers, and it also ends my life conveniently at 24. I am now 31. A lot has happened since 2019. My life did not simply stop because I took the oath that made me a lawyer in Florida. It does not tell you how many barriers to access I have faced and what had happened in that time when everybody wanted to talk to me about becoming a lawyer. I wanted to talk about community. I wanted to talk about how many other autistic people were not receiving opportunities, that we were less likely to be employed, less likely to be active in our communities, that we were being denied, that we were being passed over, that we were somehow being treated differently and not necessarily in a good way. That is the story that I wanted to tell. That is the story I hope to keep telling. But it is one thing to tell a story that is solely focused on the obstacles. There is so much more. Each of us is here for one of many different reasons. And when I think about those obstacles, that also is what brings you into this room. We want to innovate. We want to keep using technology and our very human stories, struggles, joy, and everything in between to eliminate those barriers to access. Those are the stories that I want to tell, that I want you to keep telling too. The story that I often find myself telling as well is all the stuff that happened in the middle of the movie of once you were non-speaking and now you're a lawyer. I can tell you about all of the different no's, the different roadblocks, the stigma, the way I was treated, the way my family was treated. And something that always strikes me is how we are simply assumed to be given a pass. Whenever I tell people that I passed the bar, there usually is this excitement around it. It is a very hard thing after all, and I still have nightmares about sitting in the Tampa Convention Center in 2018 for 2 days, knowing that my fate hung on a test. However, whenever I tell these stories, somebody asks, almost in a condescending way, did you receive accommodations? As if that would somehow invalidate what I had done when I tell them that I passed on the first attempt. And I have to say no. I didn't receive accommodations, but not because I didn't need them, not because I didn't want them, but because I was failed systemically along the way that made it almost impossible to receive those accommodations in the first place. That you had to have all of this history, all of these things, and my law school made it very, very difficult to get there. So I did not advocate for myself. And that is something that I look back on and wish I had done differently too. That is why I think it is so big that we are all here, that we are able to advocate, not just for ourselves, but our communities. I can give myself a lot of grace for not advocating as a young person, a scared person who didn't know how to navigate all of the different systems that disabled people have to navigate every single day just to have the same dignity, opportunity, and enjoyment of life as anybody else. That is one thing in particular I think a lot about. Now, when it comes to those stories that we tell, we do get to tell those stories on our own terms. We get to tell the happy stories, the frustrating stories, and we really get to connect and find community. Community is the biggest thing that I have learned throughout my life. It is very easy to feel alone to feel scared. I remember the very first time I had met other autistic people was at a conference. I was 13 years old, and the coolest person in the room to me was a college student. Now, you might have been thinking it would have been a celebrity or somebody who seemed more adult, whatever that means. But to me, it was a college student because they represented what was possible in my young 13-year-old mind. And I realized for the first time what was possible, what was doable, that I was not, in fact, as alone as I thought that I was. It is very easy to feel like you're the only person in the world who has your specific disability, who faces the obstacles that you do. And in fact, you are not. Community makes it not only feel less isolating, but teaches you a lot of really cool things of how to adapt, how to grow, how to stay curious. One of the best interactions I have ever had with a fellow autistic person was how to remember to do certain tasks, and also how to get help cleaning my apartment. I cannot keep things clean to save my life. My apartment looks like a tornado ripped through it. And not for lack of trying. It is because there are so many different steps involved to keeping things organized and clean that I get overwhelmed and then end up sitting down and staring at the wall. Or I come across something while trying to tidy up and I get so wrapped up in the moment of, look at this old photo, oh my gosh. And then I go down the rabbit hole of reminiscing and thinking about a good time in the past that I completely forgot I was trying to put things away. While that sounds funny, that is a legitimate challenge that I have with my executive functioning. And when I had another autistic person tell me, here's a great system that will work. Also, here is an app that you can use if you need to get assistance with cleaning and you can have someone help you. I was like, you mean I don't have to talk on the phone to do that? Whoa, game changer. The same with different self-care tools. All of these things I learned by being in community with other people, not because I had to figure it all out myself. The way that we are expected to be independent, that can so easily be viewed as do it yourself. Life is not a DIY project. It is an interdependent existence. We rely on each other. Every single one of us needs help from other people. And the help that we need might just look different depending on what you are struggling with or what is something that you would rather delegate for. It really depends on your situation. And those are the stories that get untold most of the time that I am up here, that I am asked to talk about childhood and everything else in between. I really love thinking about community, and that's what I hope that all of you find here, whether this is your 41st CSUN or your very first, like it is mine, that you find community. And community can come in the most unexpected moments. It can come in the most magical of places. It comes when you're not looking for it, or when you're actively seeking it. You might find it, and it just doesn't look the way you imagined in your head. It might just be better. And with community, there is something really special that happens when we think about innovation and communicating with one another. And it's something that I don't even know if technology could perhaps manufacture with us, but joy. It is so easy, yet again, to get bogged down in the struggles, the things that are difficult for us. But there is so much joy in our journeys, in the things that make us who we are. My life is not the doom and gloom that was expected of all the things that I would never do, all of those no's. Joy comes from everywhere when you look for it, or also when you don't expect it. It comes in the video games that perhaps it was not expected that I would love nearly as much. It comes from collecting things, from conversations, from curiosity, from being myself in a world that often expects neurodivergent people like me to act more normal. What does it even mean to be normal? Nobody here is going to come up to me later at coffee and tell me they are a normal person. You will tell me pretty much anything else about yourself, that you are creative, that you are curious, that you are driven, that you have something or someone that you love, something that you care about. Normal, perhaps, does not really fit into that box. I want to reject that notion because striving for normalcy almost erases that joy. It ends up feeling like you are wearing a costume, that you are being someone or something that isn't really you. Take those things that make you who you are. Don't let the world take that out of you. People have always said some of those interests and passions that I've had might be for kids, or they might be for somebody else. So one of my favorite things in the world is actually the Pokemon series. Someone I am sure will ask me later who my favorite Pokemon are, and you might be my new best friend today. But for the longest time, when I would talk about this, I would be told, that's childish. And I say, am I hurting anybody? I am not trading cards with 7-year-olds and making them feel scared on the playground. I am not doing anything wrong. I am full of joy, and at this point in my life, I am more myself than ever because of it. And I realized that it's because of my autism that I enjoy things the way that I do. I want to know everything about something that I care about. I love feeling like I can learn so many new things. And that joy that I experience, the one that sometimes makes people feel uncomfortable, is the most natural thing in the world for me. When autistic people experience joy, it is a full body experience. When my hands are flapping, my body is moving, I am rocking on my feet trying to stay still, I feel joy in every ounce of my body. How can you want to take that away is my question. Why don't we have more of those experiences where we do feel that joy everywhere we go? And conferences like this are one of those places where joy is celebrated. The innovations that we have as humans, as technologists, those certain innovations make it so joy is possible. That you might be helping someone use their voice to advocate for themselves, to communicate with others in ways that might not have been possible just years ago. Change happens. Change happens faster than we think it does, even when we complain that it happens too slowly. That is something that happens a lot in justice-oriented circles, that we talk about change being this slow thing, that justice, perhaps, doesn't move fast enough. I heard that a lot when I was in law school, and students still regularly tell me things aren't changing enough. And then I say, well, I was in law school 10 years ago. 10 years ago, students weren't organizing for disabled people and disabled students in law school the way that they are today. You all, as leaders, have made changes that I would have dreamt of seeing 10 years ago. That is change. Some of the conversations that we're having today, you might not have even thought about having 10 years ago, or we're on the very cutting edge and brink of discovery. Change happens both fast and slow. And that change brings hope. It brings joy. It brings so many things for us to think about. I also hope that this week and beyond, we stay curious. When I talk to workplace leaders, one of the biggest things that I like to share is to lead with curiosity, that it's okay to ask questions as long as they are respectful and respect people's boundaries. When we're curious, we get to learn from each other, our own unique human experiences that inform the work that we do, that make it so we have more opportunities. That curiosity has sparked so many great conversations in my life that I will have leaders asking, how can I support the people that I already know? Or I suspect this person needs support. How can I do better to give that? How can I signal that I am a safe person to talk to? People are asking questions that it's okay if we don't have all the answers. Part of being in community is finding and figuring out those answers together, or realizing we might actually just have more questions than not. And that's okay too. We don't have to solve everything today. We don't have to solve everything tomorrow. We don't have to have the entire future planned and figured out by the time we go home at the end of the week. That would be too much probably for anybody. But we can have ideas. We can bring things home that perhaps we didn't think about. There might be something that you learned today or even yesterday that you never thought about before. That maybe you're one step closer to smashing stigma. That is something I would love to see more of too. Because it's still very strange when people will tell me things like, you don't look autistic. And I kind of take a beat and go, what does autism look like? And somebody will say, it usually looks like a child, it usually looks like a boy, it usually looks like science, it usually looks like a passion about trains. I would like to say I appreciate a good train as a matter of autistic culture. It's culture. That is also something I learned from being in community and being around enough people who do love trains. Thank you for indulging me on that one. And then what happens is they will take a look at me and I'm like, oh, I don't always meet these criteria. I'm a woman. I went to law school. I was involved in creative endeavors. I love to illustrate. I love to write. And I do like to talk to people. I do like to talk to people more than people would expect. I like to think that communicating, I am more like a cat than a dog, that I will let you know when I am done and check out. For those of you who are dog people, you know that your dog wants to hang out with you all the time. They love you. They have that love me, love me, love me attitude. While your cat will let you know when they would like the attention and walk away as they please. I consider myself more of the cat than the dog. That doesn't mean that I'm a terrible dog. Which is what has been assumed for a very long time. I don't know who just... I would like to know who just barked because I want to meet you later. That is always... Oh, I see a hand up. Hi, I can't wait to meet your dog, and thank you for participating. So what I was getting at is that we're not failed dogs. We are all just different, and that's a good thing. There are people who love their dogs. There are people who love their cats. One is not better than the other, although we all will agree to disagree sometimes, but there are strengths and weaknesses no matter who you are. And when people say you don't look autistic to me, they don't realize how much work it takes to sometimes be in that same space, to socialize, to do all the things that are expected of the human condition. We are doing something that many of you or some of you might be familiar with, this idea of masking or camouflaging, where you take on this persona that feels typical, normal, a way of being accepted and respected instead of treated differently in a bad way. I like to look at it a lot like being an actor, that you are in costume, except you are in costume a lot. And sometimes people have no idea that you are doing a performance, and then you come home and you are exhausted. The price of acceptance should not be conformity, of trying to be something or someone that I am not, because on the basis of disability alone, people like to make decisions and assumptions about who you are and what you believe in, what you stand for. I don't really like that idea of this is who I am and what I stand for just on the basis of an assumption that maybe I don't want friends, I'm not very social, I have a very limited range of interests, even though the more you will talk to me, you will realize I have a lot of range in things that I care about and am passionate about, and that I do like to be around others, even when it does drain my social battery now and then. So whenever someone says, you don't look autistic, you don't look disabled, I really like to ask them a question. What makes you say that? Or what was the idea that you had in mind? Those small interactions where people will say things where their intent and their impact don't match aren't necessarily pointing out that somebody made a mistake or that they're a bad person. It's an opportunity for connection, for conversation, for me to try to understand why somebody feels that way, but also acknowledging that didn't land right with me, that there are so many ways we're able to keep learning from each other. I think that is one of the coolest things in the world, that we constantly have an opportunity to learn from a different human experience. Even being in this space, this room, whether you're sitting down or you are joining us online somewhere, that we have a very different experience of the exact same space. Being up here, my experience is trying to avoid the bright lights because they are very overwhelming. Most of you probably don't even recognize that there are bright lights towards the stage. That's one way that I have to think about this space differently than you. Also, some of us just have very different ways of existing. Just to kind of get a feel for it, we are in a physical ballroom. And like most places, temperature is kind of a mystery. If I ask everybody here to tell me if they are warm, if they are cold, or they're kind of somewhere in the middle and haven't really thought about it, hands would go up regardless. People would tell me they're hot, people will tell me they're cold, and people will go, I don't know, I'm just comfortable. And if I asked you who is right, all of us are right, because that's how our brains and our bodies are making sense of the spaces that we're in. There might be a specific number that the temperature is saying, the scientific correct answer, but that doesn't change our individual experiences. How powerful is that simple lived experience that you might be having? That you know what you're feeling, you know what you're thinking. That lived experience is one of the most powerful forms of expertise that we can bring to a conversation. Science is awesome. It can tell you all sorts of really amazing things and lead to discovery and breakthrough, but lived experience is almost like coloring in the picture. I am someone who has a lot of sensory sensitivities. If somebody studies me, they will probably know what things seem to be enough to send me into a sensory overload. That if you play music, you might notice that something is starting to maybe make me tense up, make me feel a little anxious, make me have to leave the room. But if I tell you, you know, I think it's this very specific thing. So if you eventually narrow in on jazz music, especially, I'm sorry if any of you are a jazz aficionado or musician. And I have a researcher who says, it seems like jazz music seems to really be overwhelming you. I could have said, well, yeah, it's the saxophone that gets me every single time. That would have been a very interesting study to have happened, for me to say it's the saxophone from lived experience, and I feel bad for anybody who is a saxophone player and has had to learn that about me. But it's one of those things that really shows that lived experience brings us a different experience and perspective on things. That me having an aversion to the saxophone isn't anything against somebody as a person. It's just the specific sound that makes me feel like everything in my body is about to change. I don't quite know why, but together we can color that experience in, that we could figure out that maybe it registers at a different level, that maybe something there is sending it in that direction, that my brain goes, oh my gosh, we are in danger, girl. We gotta get out of here. We want those types of discoveries together. That is the coolest thing about when professional and personal experiences collide. That's what storytelling is all about. That is what community is all about. I can laugh at some of the things that are difficult for me. I really do think it is funny that I can enjoy so many loud and crowded experiences that normally would overwhelm me, and then something as simple as jazz will send me into overdrive. I also know that as much as disability can also be frustrating, the joy outweighs that. Those two things can coexist. Of sometimes something feels very difficult, and I wish it were a little bit less difficult, which is also why we're here to help improve quality of life, which I think is really the coolest thing on the planet. But also realize there is so many amazing things. I have no idea what it means to be a neurotypical, non-disabled person. At one point in my life, I thought that I wanted to know. I realized that was called being a teenager who wanted to make friends and was struggling to make friends in high school. Now I realize I don't want to know because I like who I am. I am at a very healthy acceptance of what I am and who I am. I don't know if I would be the same person if science or a magic wand can make me not autistic or make me neurotypical. I think I would be a very different person. This is the hand in life that I have been dealt, and I wouldn't want it any other way. It's my job to make the most of it, to really savor what life has to offer, perhaps with a little bit of a different flair on it, realizing it's still mine, realizing, you know what, things will get better in the things that are hard. One of the biggest breakthroughs in autism research that I have always hoped for wasn't a cure, but the ability to sleep for 8 hours a night. I would love to be able to sleep a full night. I actually did sleep a full night last night because I was so tired from traveling from Miami. That unfortunately is the exception rather than the norm. But that makes me so hopeful, is just little things that can really change the trajectory of the future. And those things that perhaps you might not think about as innovators until you have those human connections. That maybe it would take talking to more people, learning from experiences that you don't have, to really recognize there is so much more that we can do. There is so much more we can get excited about, and we have that passion within us. After all, you did choose to advocate for yourself and your community and our community by attending CSUN this year. That just that decision to advocate can cause a ripple effect, that you can advocate so much more. I never thought that I wanted to advocate. I barely wanted to advocate for myself. I am still afraid to call customer service representatives on the phone. That sometimes is the bravest act of advocacy that I can do. And advocacy doesn't always have to be this big act. It can be making the decision to be in this room, to talk to somebody new, to realize there is something that seems off, and to ask and wonder aloud together. That we really do have the power to make change, not just in our lives, but in the lives of others as well. That's the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning, because people always want to know, why do you care? And of course, why do you care is more than just having lived experience. It's recognizing how many obstacles are still in our paths. Nothing to me is more disheartening than when I meet families, I meet other autistic people or other disabled people, and they tell me about the obstacles and barriers that they're facing. And it breaks my heart when those barriers are the same barriers I faced 2 decades ago, that things hadn't moved forward in some regard, but they have moved forward in other places in their lives. We shouldn't have to be facing the same barriers of exclusion, of doubt, of stigma over and over and over. That change, I hope, happens faster rather than slower. And together we really do have something that we can do, that we aren't powerless. We all have something we can contribute, our knowledge, our research, our lived experience, something maybe we never thought about but realize we have something to bring. Just being passionate about something, about disability inclusion, can really make something better for all of us. Because that's really what access is all about. It's about being able to participate in our communities, in our schools, in our programs, in civic and social lives. I love that for all of us, that idea of participation in friends. Conferences are, no surprise, one of my favorite places to be, and also one of the scariest places to be all at the same time. This can be overwhelming for anybody. It can be overwhelming for me, but there's so many opportunities. I have met some of my mentors, colleagues, and best friends in rooms like this, and I wasn't expecting it. That can make a difference. That might be the advocacy that you do today. You might make a friend, and that might not be what your goal was coming in. You might have wanted to solve some of the world's biggest assistive technology and accessibility problems, but innovation might just be being a friend or making that friend you didn't know that you needed today. There are so many cool things that you can do. That's really what jazzes me up and gets me excited, because the world can be and should be an inclusive place for every single one of us, no matter how your brain or your body works. We all deserve dignity, respect, acceptance, and realizing that there is more that connects us than that separates us. We have so much to offer. We have opportunities that perhaps we haven't taken, that perhaps we haven't been offered before. There is a world that we don't have to have these conversations because we are perfectly accessible and inclusive. Unfortunately, we are not yet there. But I think together we can really get closer to those ideals that we can really believe, and the stories that we tell aren't simply reductive, trying to make us feel better in some way, shape, or form, because the story that we can tell isn't one of simply overcoming adversity or a perceived tragedy. It's a story of connection, a story of community, a story of advocacy, a story of togetherness and really breaking down obstacles that shouldn't be there in the first place, like stereotypes and stigma and discrimination. I, for one, am incredibly hopeful for what you will do, not just here at CSUN, but when you go home. The lessons that you've learned, the people that you've met, the stories that you've told, the stories that you've listened to, and everything in between. What is the story that you want to tell? What is the story that the world needs to listen to? No matter how that is listened to, the stories that we tell are more important, more crucial than the stories that are told for us and about us. It's the stories that we write and the stories that are told with us. So with that, I hope that you get to tell the story that you want to tell alongside each other, in community, together, and really learning and listening and full of joy. I hope that joy leads us through. what can feel like a very scary, unpredictable, confusing time. That joy, those things that make us who we are, the soul that we lead with, that is what will drive further innovation and keep us moving in the right direction. So spend your week, your days, your months, your years, all of the time that you have with that joy, with that curiosity, and tell the stories that deserve to be told, the stories that you want to tell to make things more accessible and inclusive for all of us, because every single one of us deserves to have that feeling of community and belonging. And that is what I am most excited to see what you will do next here and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. That was wonderful. And I want to present you with our token of our appreciation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again. That was wonderful. We're very lucky to have you. And now I thank all of you. This is the conclusion of our program. I wish you all a wonderful week ahead.